And you were just telling us that it was your day off, and on that day off, you were one of the first to arrive at Grenfell. You ran in to see what you could do, and I can't imagine what that would have been like.
Well, it was actually not my day off. I was actually at home in bed sleeping from coming from work, and this horrendous thing just unfolded. And obviously I'm a nurse, so my trigger is to go forward and help. So that's just what I did. And then to find myself 2 weeks later having to discuss our pay cut is really quite sad and painful for me.
Well, at the moment, because you've been signed off sick because of the smoke inhalation that happened to you whilst you were there, so you've been at home watching all of this unfold and in Parliament, and you were disgusted, actually, when they refused to scrap this pay cap that's been in place.
I was hurt.
Yeah.
I was hurt because Grenfell, it wasn't just me, it was paramedics, it was firefighters, and this is not something that's just happened one day. This is going to take years of fixing, and they're going to rely on nurses in the NHS to take care of people. And we are just almost treated like we are just at the bottom of the cesspit, because, you know, you wouldn't go to a restaurant and tip a waitress a penny, would you? So we're basically worthless.
So the pay cap there's a 1% pay cap on public sector workers, was introduced in 2013. And prior to that, there'd been a 2-year pay freeze.
Right.
And so your budgeting, how do you budget on a monthly basis on the wage that you have?
You don't. You just basically rob Peter to pay Paul. You make a choice. Are you going to buy food or are you going to pay bills? And you are constantly having to call, to make calls, to make apologies, not being able to pay your bills. And it sounds crazy when you call people and say, I can't, and then they hear you're a nurse. Well, how can a nurse not be able to pay bills? I am fortunate that I have a very supportive family and I have a good support network, but I know friends that have to go to food banks to get food. Could you imagine how...
Nurses?
Yeah.
Nurses go to food
Yeah,
banks.
how undignified it must be to go to ask for tins of food to feed your family when all you do all day, every day is care for people. There's something wrong. There's something very wrong.
You've had friends, fellow nurses, who have moved into private healthcare or gone abroad to work. Both things are not an option for you. You've got 2 sons who need you here, so you're definitely not going to go travelling away, and why should you? But also, ethically, going into the private sector is not something that you want to do.
I personally, I love the NHS.
Yeah.
I am proud to be a part of the NHS, and I don't want to leave the NHS, but I just feel forced to. I don't want to go into private sector because I don't know how that's managed. I don't know what the ethics are behind that whole ethos, so I'm not going to get involved in private sector. If I'm not going to work in the NHS, I'm just not going to be a nurse.
How seriously have you thought about quitting?
Very serious. Very serious. I'm surprised if I'll be a nurse by the end of this year.
And how long did it take you to train?
3 years.
That's such a loss.
Sarah, we
lost
her on Skype, but we've got her on the phone. Sarah, the figures are horrifying when you look at how many people are leaving. Number of nurses and midwives leaving the profession risen 51% in 4 years, citing low pay and poor working conditions. More midwives and nurses leaving the register than are joining. So this sounds like a continuing, looming catastrophe for us all.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely heartbreaking. Those statistics are heartbreaking, and it's also heartbreaking to hear what she just said, you know, to feel that much passion for the NHS and yet have such an unsustainable life within the NHS that they have to leave. That's an awful thing.
How about you?
Yeah.
So what is your experience?
I've been so lucky that I've had amazing experiences with nurses, and to be honest, every junior doctor, once they come out of university, go straight into the hospitals, and they are completely naive, have no idea what they're doing. It is always the experienced nurses that lift you. It's always them that tell you what to do and help you through it, and and calm you down when you're having a panic. And to think that these experienced nurses are now going to leave, it's going to be a real tragedy for those new doctors as well, who aren't going to have that support that they've got from the nurses.
Sarah, thank you. Simone, I just wanted to ask you finally, what would you say to Theresa May about your situation and on behalf of other nurses?
What I would say is this. There is nobody that walks this earth that hasn't had an encounter with a nurse. I'm actually a palliative care nurse, so I take care of people that are dying. I'd like to know how Theresa May, if she could ever sit in my position and hold someone's hand at their very last breath, if she could sit down and comfort a family when they are going to lose their everything. She can't do it. There's no pay that can pay me for what I do, I know that, but treat me with the dignity and respect that I deserve, because I am a human being just like she's a human being. And if she was to fall sick tomorrow, I would care for her, and I'd care for her well.